The flickering black and white images are etched into our collective memory. Jubilant crowds flooding Times Square, sailors kissing nurses, soldiers and civilians dancing in the streets of London and Paris. Victory in Europe, victory over Japan. In August of 1945, the most destructive war in human history was finally over. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief, believing the years of hardship and sacrifice had come to an end. But as we explore here on Stories from the Battlefield, history is never so simple. For tens of millions, the ceasefire was not an end to suffering, but the beginning of a new, silent war fought not on the battlefield, but in the ruins of their own homes. The first and most overwhelming challenge was a continent in motion. The war had uprooted more people than any event in recorded history. An estimated 60 million Europeans were displaced, a staggering tide of humanity driven by an unbreakable will to find safety and belonging. This wasn't just soldiers returning home. It was former prisoners of war, liberated slave laborers, and survivors of concentration camps. Millions of ethnic Germans were expelled from Eastern Europe, while Poles, Ukrainians, and others were forcibly relocated as new borders were drawn. They walked, hitched rides on military trucks, or crammed onto dilapidated trains, driven by an unyielding hope, all searching for a place they could call home, a family they hoped to reunite with. In response, the Allies, working through organizations like the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration, UNRRA, established displaced persons camps. These vital initiatives, often set up in former barracks or even concentration camps, became sanctuaries where millions found temporary safety and sustenance. Though life within them was rife with uncertainty, people waited for months, sometimes years, for news of loved ones or a clear path forward. These camps also became crucibles of resilience, where communities began to rebuild, offering mutual support in a period of profound loss and suspended life, striving for a new beginning after surviving the war itself. Beyond the crisis of displacement was the specter of starvation. The war had systematically dismantled Europe's ability to feed itself. Farmland lay fallow, livestock had been slaughtered, and transportation networks were obliterated. The winter of 1946 brought the harrowing hunger winter, with rations in some zones falling to dangerously low levels. Yet even in this dire period, the world mobilized. International aid organizations and newly formed governments worked tirelessly to distribute food, clear mines from fields, and restore agricultural production, embodying a global commitment to sustain life and avert further catastrophe across a continent desperate for nourishment. This desperation shattered the economic foundations of society. National currencies became virtually worthless, giving rise to makeshift economies where ingenuity, like using cigarettes as currency, became a necessary part of daily survival. While challenging, this period also spurred a remarkable collective effort to rebuild. With Allied support, new currencies were introduced, industries slowly restarted, and the foundations for stable, prosperous societies began to be meticulously laid, demonstrating incredible resolve to move beyond mere survival towards long-term recovery and growth. With malnutrition and overcrowding came the inevitable outbreak of disease, as public health infrastructure lay in ruins. Yet, in the face of widespread typhus and tuberculosis, an extraordinary cadre of doctors, nurses, and aid workers rose to the challenge. Despite exhausted resources and immense personal risk, they tirelessly administered care, organized sanitation efforts, and established new health initiatives. Their selfless dedication was a beacon of hope, working to heal a population physically and mentally scarred by years of conflict and to rebuild the very foundations of public well-being. As the rubble was slowly cleared, it became apparent that the war had left more than just physical scars. An entire generation wrestled with profound trauma. Soldiers returned home with invisible wounds, now recognized as post-traumatic stress disorder, and civilians faced deep anxiety and loss. This era, however, also marked the beginning of a deeper societal understanding of these invisible burdens. Communities and emerging psychological support networks began the long, compassionate work of healing hearts and minds, striving to reintegrate individuals and restore a sense of normalcy for millions rebuilding their lives. The end of the fighting also revealed the complex political challenges that lay ahead for the victorious Allies. With the common enemy gone, the world grappled with profound ideological differences, leading to new geopolitical realities. The consolidation of influence in Eastern Europe and the subsequent division of Germany, famously described as an Iron Curtain descending, marked the beginning of a new era, the Cold War. This period, though tense, underscored the critical importance of diplomacy and international understanding to navigate complex global dynamics and prevent future large-scale conflicts, defining the collective efforts towards a more stable, though fragile, peace for decades to come. Looking back from the perspective of today, the celebrations of 1945 represent not a final chapter, but a pivotal turning point. The story that followed was one of immense, daunting struggle, but also of extraordinary resilience and unwavering human spirit. It became a powerful testament to rebuilding not just cities, but entire societies, economies, and the very concept of a peaceful future. The challenges of the post-war world tested the limits of endurance, yet from the depths of devastation emerged a collective will to create a better tomorrow. It is a profound reminder and a central lesson we often revisit here on Stories from the Battlefield, that while the true cost of war is paid long after the final shots are fired, so too is the extraordinary capacity for hope, cooperation, and renewal brought to bear in its aftermath.